Welcome to Taming the Tension Part 2. In this video, we're going to talk about some basic massage techniques that you can do at home to help find adhesions, knots, and to loosen your horse to make them as happy and comfortable as possible between sessions with a regular body worker or if you don't have access to one. It's really important to check in with your regular veterinarian and body worker, whether it's a chiropractor, massage therapist, or both, to have regular checkups in between sessions. But at home, there's a lot of things that you can do to make sure your horse is happy, healthy, and as balanced as possible. So the first thing that we're going to do is, I don't use a lot of tools but my hands, but one tool I really like is a rubber curry comb like this one. You can find them as scalp massagers, rubber curry combs, things like that with the big points on them. So one of the nice things you could do is address the fascia with this. So the fascia is connective tissue that encompasses miles long over the body and it holds everything in. Kind of like a sausage casing, except this sausage casing moves with the animal. When it starts to get a little tight, however, that's when you start to have a little bit of problems. So we want to make sure it's nice and fluid. The benefit of having a tool like this, not only does it save your fingertips, but it also helps speed the process and increase circulation as well as moving the fascia material in what we call myofascial release. As we go through with these basic massage techniques, we're always going to go from head to tail, top to bottom. So we're always going to follow this pattern, and then you do one side, and then you do the other side. It's up to you whether you want to go from head to tail, around tail to head in a circle, or start head to tail on both sides. That's completely up to you and your horse. Some days they might be a little sensitive and only want the front end. If you have a kicker, maybe introduce them to the front end first and see how it goes. So always safety first and make sure you're good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these rubber curries, and we've got a nice little mane here, so I'm going to lift it up with one hand. And we're just going to do nice up, down, and I'm not pushing hard. See, he's getting the idea of it. I'm just going up, down, it's a good boy. And you can see he's getting a little upset at the flies, but not really at me. As we get to the injured shoulder, he's definitely going to be a little bit uppity about it, but we're going to be real gentle here and just keep things moving. Up, down. And you want to get as much as you can. I like to avoid the legs because I prefer to do that with my hands. That was a nice release he just gave there. Now I'm going to hold this shoulder in place with my other hand while I go to his wither because I do know that's a sensitive area for him. And if he stomps his foot or whips around, I have my arm to block. And just up, down, all the way. All those tension releases that he's experiencing right now is just lovely. And we just follow a grid-like pattern. And we do this very gently, all the way on all the muscle surfaces. We avoid the bone and just stick to the muscles. And what this does is it draws circulation and blood flow to the area, plus it releases that fascia that might be a little bit tight. I hear some licking and chewing. He likes to check in with me periodically. That's totally normal. He's not a mean horse. Most horses will always react because of pain, not because of bad behavior. Even the sensitive areas, see that? And then we're going to come back here, start up at the top, and just travel down. Nice release, buddy. So you can see the little marks I'm making. I'm not putting a lot of pressure here, but he's lifting that tail. He might express some gas. He might also whip me in the face with it. That's okay. Oh, I don't know if you can see this, but we're fully dropped. Now, he's only had this a couple of times, so he's not quite sure about it, but you can see he really loves the idea of it, right? And we have that nice relaxed leg. So the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the front and just make sure I get that chest again because I know he's a little bit sore. I'm going to be really gentle here and get his pectoral muscles in the front. Did you like that? You're a good boy. So that's that. That's a myofascial release that we're doing with a rubber. Okay, so now we're going to do a couple of massage techniques, just like we did on Delight. So what we're looking for her is a reaction. We're looking for licking and chewing. We're looking at her head lowering, her eyes blinking. Those are signs of relaxation. Alternatively, we're looking at signs of discomfort and pain. Tail switching, kicking at her belly, moving off from my touch. So these are all indications that you should be aware of when you're working on your own horse. But always, always, always use the lightest amount of pressure possible when you start. So we talked about using a rubber curry comb to do the myofascial release. This is actually a scalp massager. I pulled out a different tool today for flax. This is a scalp massager. So you buy it off of Amazon. It's used, you stimulate hair growth or whatever, but this can work just fine in your tack box to do the myofascial release. So we're going to do the same grid-like pattern that we did before on Delight, we're now going to do on Flax. That up-down motion is really important. And again, we're going to stay away from all of her bony areas and really focus on the muscle. Now this horse is not used to any of this, so I'm really going to look at her closely. She is bothered by the flies, so that's always something to keep in mind. Interesting. Was that a fly or not? So something to keep in mind. Are you watching the others? Can we continue? Okay. So we're going to go ahead and just move her mane. The shoulder is a sensitive area. There's two muscles that connect in the shoulder. And we want to make sure that you address it really nice because there's a lot of pressure that's get put there. She did almost kick that shoulder. So we're going to back up. Good girl. Now, mind you, this is a horse that has not been done by me in a very long time. We're going to just do her pectorals. And she's probably never had this tool ever before. So we're doing the lightest amount of pressure. And I'm going to avoid the legs today because I like to use my hands on the legs. The legs are very sensitive. And there's nothing quite like massaging the leg. Anyway, I'll show you that with the Effleurage stroking. But then we're going to grid just like we did on Mr. Delight. And when we do this, we're looking for reactions in certain areas. This is great pep work. So this area here of her rib cage was sensitive and she had a reaction to it. This pony does like to kick at her belly. So what are you trying to do? Oh my goodness. We got that licking and chewing going there. Do you see that? I can hear it. So not all horses are going to give you a huge reaction. You've got to really be aware of the small reactions. So when I'm working on an area, is there a flick of the skin when I'm working on it? Does it vibrate like a fly landed on it? Or alternatively, does she have a bad reaction? You want to make sure that you're using the least amount of pressure possible, but then this is going to give you a nice warm up and show you areas that might be really sensitive and might really need your attention. Or the attention of a chiropractor, a massage therapist, or a vet. Gotta love a nice Mustang badonkadonk. Got a lot of muscle, which is my favorite thing. So you're going to go all the way down, top to bottom, just like that. Oh, releasing gas. That's wonderful. So if you have a horse that's prone to gas colic, even doing something like this might help stimulate that digestive system and help them pass gas. So you still want to call your vet, but keep in mind that these can all be tools that you could keep in your toolbox for at home. One of my favorite releases is the Crest release. It's really self-explanatory. Delight obviously knows what I'm talking about because he's ready for it. And it's great for all horses, especially those overthinkers. Horses are very heavy on the forehand. 100% of them are downhill. Really, they graze, they're always in a downward position. And so a lot of pressure goes into holding this big head up. So a lot of ligament, nerves, and muscle are involved with the thoracic sling all the way up through the head. So the Crest release is a really great, easy tool that you can use as part of your grooming or tacking up routine. I might go ahead and just drop these reins at this point, just so I can have two hands. My little guy's half asleep anyway. And then all you're gonna do is you're gonna put your hand on the top of the Crest, like so. And you're going to gently wiggle back and forth. And you're gonna do so all the way up to the top. Now, as you get to the top, you're getting close to the pole. They get very sensitive. There's not a lot of muscle there. That's okay. You can very much take like fingers and do that. You also can stop here. You don't have to go all the way up. Remember, when you're starting with your horse, might be very new to them. So for him, he tends to have a lot of TMJ and pole issues. That's a great indicator when I'm doing the Crest release if there's something more going on in the head and jaw. So another way besides doing on the top, I like to take my thumbs and do that. So I like to just kind of palpate back and forth. Yes, I know. It's so ouchy. Yeah. And then because I know my friend, I'm gonna go ahead and let him sniff me, and I'm gonna just do the Crest release up top where he'll let me do it. So there's a little trick you can do. Always distraction is great. Yes. So that shaking is him really trying to help reduce the tension. And you could do this on both sides. One of my favorite things to do if my horse has been a really good boy, I like to, in the saddle, go ahead and do it on either side. Just lean forward and move their crest side to side as well. That's a great way to do it. And it really starts the process. So as you can see, he's got some shaking in his wither. There's a lot of tension this horse has right now, and the Crest release is a great way to start addressing it. So it's not uncommon for the base of the neck to be much tighter than as you go up towards the pole. Now, mind you, the muscle stops around here. There's just ligaments and things like that. But the base of the neck holds a lot of tension. It holds up the thoracic sling. It holds up the shoulders. It holds up all these things. And so a lot of times any pressure they have is based on that area. So you could start here, but don't be alarmed if it doesn't move so much, because as you go up towards the top, it's going to move a little bit better, generally speaking. Sometimes you have a situation like with Delight where he's tight in the pole, he's going to be a little antsy about it. You can always tell a lot about a horse by where they're tight in the neck. Most horses are tight down here. Overthinkers and horses that are maybe a little bit more sensitive tend to be tighter up here. So the basic stroke of massage is called Effleurage. It literally means stroking. And so if you remember, I always like to go from head to tail, top to bottom. We're going to do the same thing with the Effleurage stroke. I'm going to use one hand. You can use two, but again, I have a horse here that I may have to grab at any second. He's also very familiar with what I'm doing, and one hand might help you follow along a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and let him smell me a little bit and just stroke. Okay, I'm going to use two. I lied. I'm going to use two, and we're just going to go stroke down, long flowing strokes. This is a great way to calm a hot horse too. A horse that is very sensitive or has a little bit of anxiety, this is a great way to get them to calm down. So again, coming top to bottom. What do you think? And then you got to get the legs in this. A lot of horses really love to have their legs rubbed. And it's great for their circulation because there's not a lot of muscle there, not a lot of blood flow. So the more you massage the legs, the more blood flow you get going to that area, which is really nice. And then we're going to go ahead and just stroke top to bottom. Again, following kind of a grid pattern. Now, you don't have to follow this pattern. It's completely up to you and your horse. Some horses you can just go across the top and just go all the way down. But for the sake of saving my energy, when I do 7 to 10 of these a day, I like to use the least amount of energy possible and stay in one place. So again, we're going to rub over these ribs, which tend to be very sensitive, so be aware if your horse kicks. And just rub. And you can see he's shaking, licking, and chewing. There's some great breaths he's giving us. And one thing that we'll notice, especially as he's standing now, because remember in the first video we talked about stance, he's changed his stance a little bit. So as we're coming and working on him, we're going to notice some things, right? We're going to notice things change. And so one of the things we notice as we're moving along this is maybe how tight his glutes are, how tight his hamstrings are. And the other thing is, you're going to see how close he's standing behind, right? So he's really tucked. This is very indicative, especially with this in the obliques, of a pelvis that is actually tilted backwards. So that's something to keep in mind as you massage. Massage is the best preventative tool to find problems with your horse before they really become difficult issues. Are you going to fall asleep on me? So now he is still standing very tightly, but these are some great stroking moves to really relax your horse, as Delight is showing us. So a really fun fact, if you ever get concerned about what direction to stroke your horse, right? Always follow the line of the hair. So go with the hair, never against it. As you can see, the hair is coming up to down, left to right, right to left, sorry. The hair is moving in this direction, up to down, right to left. And so we're always going to come in this direction, move with the hair. As we get farther to the back, you see it changes. And so if we get, now be careful, it's a very sensitive area for horses. We're just going to gently follow the path of the hair, so it's a little different. But if you ever get confused, just follow the hair. It'll tell you where to go. Now we're going to do the effleurage, or stroking, down her. And so again, we start at the head. Are we going to hide our face? Mares love to hide their reactions in the dirt. I don't know what this is about mares, but don't be surprised by it. They don't like to show, especially a stoic horse doesn't like to show their reaction that they're enjoying it until they get used to you. So, fun story, we had this mare with kissing spine, no reaction at all, until finally she put her face in the wall and started to yawn. And then finally at the end of the session, when we stopped touching her, she gave this full body shake and like yawning everywhere. But it took a good hour for her to trust us. So it's not uncommon for the horses to be stoic. And again, you're going to go with the hair. I'm going to go ahead and rub her belly. I know she's got some sweet itch. Oh, I know. And then come all the way down. And you don't have to use a lot of pressure. But if you go with the hair, it's definitely much more comfortable for your horse. And it's giving you areas where you can say, okay, she feels really tight here. She doesn't like when I touch her here. Really? Like that. And they show you, right? They like to show you, or they like to hide it.